Well, Saturday night we saw high drama on the high banks of Bristol as we watched the playoff field reduced from 16 drivers to 12. On this episode of NASCAR Inside the Race, Todd and I are going to take a closer look at the reset standings heading into the round of 12. We're also going to take a deeper dive into how the decisions in Stage 1 helped Martin Truex Jr. and Bubba Wallace advance into the next round. And last, well, we have to talk about the winner. We will show you just how Denny Hamlin recovered from an early speeding penalty to come back and win for the third time in his career at Thunder Valley.
Hey, I beat your favorite driver.
And who would that be?
All of them.
All right, Todd, that's how it sounded Saturday night on the front stretch. Lots of boos and Denny Hamlin claiming, which was true, that he beat all the favorites. What do you make of his performance? Not at Bristol, but just the entire first round.
Really, he's set himself as the guy who's kind of the leader in the clubhouse. He's had 3 races that he should have won. They executed this one perfectly, recovered from the speeding penalty, but he's been in the hunt all 3. He won this one.
Well, I'm going to challenge your perfect because a perfect doesn't involve a speeding penalty. He did recover great, but it was a penalty at Bristol. The best way to explain this, I think, Bristol, one of the challenges, that pit road, front and back stretch, you go around the corner, one of the longest pit roads. He got nabbed, luckily, early. That was the only chance he had to recover.
Yeah, definitely. And some strategies from there forward. 2-tire call, got him back in a little bit better position. Let's look at that stop and come up forward with it.
Well, so we're going to take a look at it. Denny Hamlin, the stop looks good, which for Joe Gibbs Racing, pit stops have been a challenge. So clean right, clean left side. This is the end of the backstretch. So he's going to leave basically nobody in front of him and start heading around the corner in 3 and 4.
Yeah, definitely. This is one, and Bristol being unique, that you've got the backstretch and the front stretch and the radius between the two. That's what gets him caught here.
Well, you talk about the radius, so here it is. Hamlin out of his pit stall. He's going around, and this is what, okay, so hold on. The 5 car right here, he's not leaving. This is a car that qualified dead last.
Yes.
He is still entering. So Denny Hamlin comes in from near the front, has serviced his car. He's leaving next to the 5 as they go around. Now, the 5 is pitting pretty early on the front stretch.
And I got to think that Denny has it in his mind right now that I can make the 5 check up. Another guy that I'm going to race and ultimately ended up racing for the win, but he makes a 5 have to check up to get back behind him to get to his pit box.
Well, and then what that ends up meaning when he goes back on the racetrack, then the 11 has a speed penalty, goes to the back. So let's just take a look at overall what we're looking at. So here's Bristol. Here's the end of the front stretch, back stretch. That's where Hamlin is pitting.
Yep.
There's a timeline here, timeline here. There's a timeline over here somewhere and over there somewhere. So Denny Hamlin has to leave and go all the way around this corner to leave the pit stall. Now the key is with the radius, pit road is time over distance. It's not a straight line.
It's not a straight line, and it's one that this is probably the biggest place that we would accelerate the most through the corner because of how short. If you look at it, that speed is maintained right on that white line that Denny's left side tires were on. If you're running out 2-3 car lengths, you can do another probably 2-3 miles an hour faster and still be under the time.
Well, so we're going to take a little bit zoom in right here. He was caught speeding in section 8. That is this section right here. There's a line there and a line there. You see how short this distance is in the arc versus how long that distance is. This is section 8. This is where he was caught speeding. Well, the other thing I want you to reference, and I want the fans to see, is this pit box. Now, it's not being used. That's the first pit box on the front stretch because I'm going to go back to his video, and I want you to see exactly where this is, right? So he's going around that corner. Left side's on the white line. This is how low he is. So when he is inside the 5 right here, I'm going to stop it. This is him driving through that last pit box. There's the asphalt. There's the concrete. He is so low right there.
Yeah, and if you look at this, he went from his nose being just to the bumper cover of the back of the 5 car in the middle of this the radius to almost side by side with him. He's obviously taking a shortcut.
Oh, shortcut for sure. So once again, we're going to zoom in one more time. If this was a straight section, it doesn't matter how you run it. Straight line between 2 points, but it's not. The line is here. The line is here. He was on this white line and caught that section. Look how short that is. This pit road is meant to be run like that. The difference between those lines right there, that's what gets you speeding. You cannot shortcut basically these wedge shapes.
It does, and puts him in a hole. Fortunately, this is lap 70, and they recover from that.
Well, they recover right away. We're going to let this run because it's fun to watch, right? Denny Hamlin passing the 5 car, but let's talk about his day, right? He drove up to 23rd and 24th.
Yes.
Then you love the strategy from here.
Yeah. From there, they came down pit road after they got to that point, took a 2-tire stop at, what is it, about 110, I guess it was, on pit road. Actually gained positions, came out of there 19th. He passed some cars that came and got 4, but they got 2 at this point and put themselves in position to run through stage 1 to the end of stage 2.
So the only thing I will challenge is I didn't hate the 2-tire call, but I don't think it was necessary because Larson stays out at that lap 110 yellow, and he ends up staying in front of Danny Hamlin, to be honest. He stays out to the end of the stage like Hamlin does, and he stays in front of Hamlin all the way to the end of stage 2. So they go at the back together. They drive up to the 20s. Hamlin takes 2. Larson stays out. They get to the end of stage 1. Hamlin goes from 19th to 9th by staying on the racetrack. That's the difference. As much as I love Bristol and I love short track racing, it was a challenge to pass. You could pass the cars in the back, but the cars in the front it was an uphill battle. So I don't think he needed to take 2 tires. Staying out was the magic at the end of the stage.
Yeah, but I thought a good call either way, just to try to continue to cycle yourself forward, staying ahead. We did see some tires, mostly the Fords, that had cording issues on right side tires later in the run. There's a lot of PJ1 down there. That PJ1 covered both the lefts and rights, accelerated the wear on these tires. I think a conservative call, but one is still netted positive for Denny.
Yeah, PJ1, the sticky stuff around the bottom. The other thing I would say, he never really passed the 5 on the racetrack, which is interesting to talk about because he came down pit road in 4th at the end of stage 2 and beat the 5 off pit road. That was really the pass for the win.
Yes, and that's a part of my perfect day to start with. If you looked at it, this crew at times has flopped on pit stops. They had 10-second pit stops for their 4-tire stops all day long. They had a 10-2 on that end of stage 2 stop. The 5 car and an 11 was a second slower than that. Got him the track position, ultimately the win.
16 entered, 12 leave with still a chance at a championship. Let's take a look at it. Start at the bottom. McDowell, minus 16, great year, won a race, made the playoffs, just not enough luck, not enough performance. What do you think?
Too many issues in the first 2 races. Come out with a 30th and a 20th, a 30-something, 20-something. They had to win here. They put together a great race here at Bristol. Ran the top 7, I think, all day long. Were out there, performed on pit road, but they had to win with what they had the first 2 races.
Same for Stenhouse. Won the Daytona 500. That's a monster start to the year. Had a great Bristol for the 47 team. He just needed a little bit more trouble in front of him, and I think he could have advanced. Do you have an answer for Kevin Harvick? Because I don't, other than they were just not fast.
This is what their year's been. I mean, really, the next-gen car has been. And Stewart-Haas as a whole has struggled with finding speed out of this car. And this was kind of what their season's been, lacking speed.
Well, that leaves us with 3, right? Logano, first driver out, Bubba and Truex, the 2 that advanced. Let's take a look at their day. I kind of really want to focus this is the day, and I want to look at stage 1 specifically. The 22, the yellow line, he stops because he ends up getting in an accident, can't finish the race. But the choices in stage 1 and the points awarded at the end of stage 1 ends up being the difference maker. Kind of walk me through their day. Let's start with Truex, the black line at the top.
Yeah, it starts in the top 10, got a decent run going, plays a little bit conservatively, comes there at lap 70 to pit road, it lost some track position, put 4 tires on, but aggressive move forward, got himself back to stage points.
You talk about aggressive, I like aggressive. Bubba Wallace, the red line. Booty Barker stays out at that same yellow you mentioned. Not only does he stay out, but then Bubba does what he needs on both restarts. And the reason I bring up restarts is because it worked for the 23. It was working for the 22. They stayed out. They had a chance, and then there was a second yellow, and with fresh tires on their rear bumper, they couldn't hold it.
Yeah, definitely one of these situations. I thought they were going to net out as you see that yellow line kind of from caution at 76 to 107, kind of hanging in the top 10. But that second restart, when you surround him with tires, he just got eaten up. We've got video of that, I believe.
Well, let's start with the good. The good is real simple. Corey LaJoie, what a great day for him. Almost won a stage. I know he got spun around later, but ran really well for Spire. The 23 on the inside, you got to kind of focus because it's a different looking car. But here we go. The 23 right here.
Yep.
We got the 22.
And then this back here, that's the 19 on 4 tires.
So 23, 22 in good position. I was a little worried about the 19, but I'm going to hit play. Conservative with the pit call, aggressive on the racetrack. I love this move right here. Yeah, this shows me that he's on board, right? Because when we stop it, 3 wide bottom, Truex instantly using fresh tires to try to make up some spots.
He is, and he's in a situation here. He's driving forward and put Alex Bowman in a position where he had to kind of slap the racetrack. gets himself, I think, 2 of them out of this one and continues to drive forward.
Well, I was a glass half full guy. That's why we started with this one. I know you want to start glass half empty. So now we're going to go on board with the 22. So now this is after the second yellow. We had a yellow at 70, pit road decisions. We run a little bit. Now we've had a yellow at about lap 110. This is about 10 laps to go, and this is the guy he needs to be chasing, right? The 19 of Martin Truex Jr. is right there. He scores a few stage points. If Logano can stay with him, he has a chance.
Yeah, you've got Martin here, and someplace up in here, you've got Bubba, who's actually hanging on up there. But he's doing all right, but he's in a decent spot, but he gets used up.
So here's what it looks like. He stayed out on old tires, the 19, a little bit fresher tire. He's okay still. It's really going down into the corner at this end. I don't know if he hits the apron, gets a little help from the 9. It doesn't matter because the result's the same. Big wiggle in the middle, and now from this point, he has no chance. 9 on the bottom, 5 up top. He's continuing to lose spots.
Yeah, he's in no man's land. He's in between. He's not up there running the wall like the 5 in front of him is driving forward, but he doesn't have tires to be up there as well. Just playing defense and really plummets back into the 20s here. Was in a position that I thought he could maybe steal a stage point or two, and ends up deep in the 20s and by the time the stage comes out.
Well, listen, I was trying to stop it because it was tough to watch in person because he got so far back that when the 7 wrecks. So let's watch the 7 wreck. So he spins, he hits the bottom, and when he slides back up the racetrack, a bunch of cars get through. Then here comes the 22 on the scene. You basically said earlier, and I agree, he lost so many spots on those old tires. That's kind of what got him into this accident.
Yeah, if he comes out of this and ends up 14th coming out of that losing spots, then he's going to be far enough forward that when the 7 spins and hits the inside wall here, he clears the 7 before he comes back up the racetrack. The fact he was that deep, and you can't anticipate when it's going to happen, but the further back you become, the more vulnerable you become. And ultimately, Bubba scored stage points, but if Joey finishes this race, I think he still beats Bubba.
Well, it was only 4 points in the end. Logano eliminated by 4. Bubba moves on by 4. Martin Truex Jr. Moves on by 5. Kevin Harvick also eliminated by 4 points. Those are 2 drivers that like to redo Bristol.
Yeah, definitely, and put so many things together. You can look at all 3 races, but the last one's freshest in your mind.
We are on to the second round of the playoffs. 12 drivers. They're going to go to Texas first, Talladega second, Roval third. Let's take a look at the standings. The reset has been kind of a recharge for some. Byron near the top. Martin Truex Jr. survived Bristol. He now gets those 25 points. I think that makes him very dangerous. They kind of have a new chance, a new opportunity here. Hamlin off the big win. Larson has run good. As you start to look down and get to the right side of the board, what drivers jump out that you think have to have great starts at Texas?
I look at a couple Fords there with Brad Keselowski and Ryan Blaney. I think they've got to get to a point where they've got a head start. They've got Talladega coming, and the Fords have been really strong at Talladega, but to come back to the Roval, I don't know that those 2 are in a position, and they're already below the cut line. They've got to put 3 races together.
Well, the $1 million question for me, Bubba Wallace, it's not a performance question. He's going to be great at Talladega. He doesn't love road course racing, but he's better than he thinks he is. I think he'll be okay at the Roval. Man, it's emotional. It was emotional to make the playoffs. It seems emotionally draining because he's right there. I mean, it's not on him. Like, he's right at the cut line on every single one of these races. Does the battery ever run out, or do you think you can recharge to go do it again?
I think they can, because I think at this point, 2311's got both their cars through. They're playing with house money. They weren't expected to get to this point. They've made it through. I almost feel like it can be refreshing to be, I'm in the round of 12. Yeah, I want to keep going. We're past the expectations of everybody else, so let's just do our thing.
Round of 12, everybody had circled. Is Talladega the most important race we've seen so far this year with Talladega and the Roval, at least Talladega being a wild card?
Texas is what you meant to say there, but yes, Texas is.
What did I have them going?
You said Talladega.
See, I would be looking forward to Talladega already. It's so much on my mind let's have this conversation. We've all been here. You and I have both made it to this round before. What do you do? What do you tell your team? If you're if you're a crew chief for one of these drivers, knowing that Talladega's there, what do you tell them at Texas?
We can't get overly amped about it. We've got to go execute, though. We've got to be good. This is the 3rd most important race to win, Texas is. I'll say Vegas, the first one, obviously Phoenix.
That's number 1.
Yeah, number 2 is Vegas. I want to be the guy that wins the first race of the third round because that guy knows he's got 3 weeks to prepare for Phoenix. And then this one gets you past the Talladega Roval challenges. And you've got the Roval that you can come back to if you feel like you're all right there, but you'd really like to check it off and not have to stress over it because Talladega can be a 30-something place finish with a really good race car.
Does a playoff driver win in Texas?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Well, how about this one then? Does Christopher Bell win the pole again?
I think so.
I mean, that's crazy, right? I mean,
Why wouldn't you?
How crazy is that? He sat on 3 poles.
And he sat on 3 poles, and honestly, the Toyotas are really strong at intermediate races right now. You look at it and look at the intermediate tracks, the mile and a halves. They've been really, really dominant. Ryan Blaney won it, the Coke 600, put a perfect day together. But outside of that, I feel like the Toyotas are the odds-on favorites at Texas, and yeah, why wouldn't I pick Christopher Bell? Recent history said he's done it 3 times. Why not do it 4?
And with that, the second round of the playoffs are here. 12 drivers have advanced out of the first round. 8 will make it out of the second round. It's 3 races. The first race this Sunday, 3:30 Eastern on USA from Texas Motor Speedway.